And that's how life is sometimes, right? We have trials, tribulations, and tests, and out of that test comes a testimony. And I think this guest has a lot to talk about because this year has been one heck of a trial and a test. Greetings, Spotlight Signature Studio. I just totally messed up that. I'll just roll with it anyways.
Roll with it.
Roll with it. Signature. Talk about tests and tribulations.
Here.
A little tongue-tied there. Hey, everybody. It's John Butler, ball guy in the red tie, Miss Susan Ebert, and our very special guest today, Mr. Scott Gormley. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. When I saw you on the guest list here, I was very excited because we don't know each other that well.
Mm-hmm.
But I know of the legend of Scott G.
And I know of the legend of Ball Guy. Susan and I had some heart-to-heart conversations in the beginning of this office opening up, and I know behind the scenes she always said that she considered you like a son, and so I know that you guys have a good relationship with each other.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Aw, Mom.
Oh,
Yeah,
son.
right.
For those who don't know, Susan's my adopted mom because
Yes.
I have a heavenly mom.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Susan's my earthly mom now.
There's a real one.
Yeah, there is a
Yep.
real one.
Yep.
But, in real estate, as we kind of opened up with, real estate is an interesting journey just in itself, the business itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then but we all have lives in the real estate business.
We do.
And sometimes those journeys go up and down and stuff like that. And so you, Scott, have had kind of a challenging year. You've
Yeah.
had a successful year in many ways,
Mm-hmm.
but some personal challenges. Would you mind sharing what happened this year?
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge. Life just kind of, everything's going good, and you're on your path for what you want to do to start off the year and get houses sold, and then I just get that one phone call that nobody really wants to pick up, and my dad had called me and just said, I need you to come up here. He didn't even say I need you to come up here, but just said she's not breathing, and he was talking about my sister. So I stopped everything that I did right there, and I didn't pack anything up, and I just drove as fast as I pretty much could without getting a speeding ticket down to San Diego, and got on the flight and got up to Chico. So that's where I went to college, and just my family ended up moving up there, and my sister graduated from Chico State, and so it was up in Chico that I flew up there. So
How old was your sister?
35.
35. And how old are you?
Yeah, I'm 40 this year.
Okay.
So
So little sister.
yeah,
What was her name?
Aaron.
Erin.
Yeah, Aaron.
Awesome.
So, but it's I don't know. There might be tears. So, Susan, just a warning. I told John, I'm like, you better bring the tissue paper. Hope
Yeah.
maybe more for Susan than for me. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm a crier.
I don't know if I have any more to give. But yeah, I mean the last weekend that I saw my sister, though, Susan was actually in the room, and she, it was a surprise 40th birthday party for me, and Susan was there, and so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh.
that's okay.
I'm going to say beautiful light to the world. And I love when I have the privilege of meeting the extended family of what I call my work family.
Mm-hmm.
And when I found out they were having this party, I was really excited because I love him. And he's such a big piece of the tapestry that is here, that is integrity. And so I go, and it's going to be the surprise party, and I'm meeting everyone before he gets there. And they're talking about what's going to happen, and okay, they're here now, and they're walking in, and I don't know if you knew about the surprise party or not, but I assumed he did.
I did. I got tipped off, so it was like act surprised. And I only told a few up until now. You were one of them. Thanks.
I wasn't going to spill the beans. But I think it's funny because your good friends will tell you if you're walking into a surprise party.
Right.
But I got to spend so much time just with her.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at her face, she looks just like him, only she's a beautiful female version, but she can sing. And when she sings, her voice sounds like a song. But we sat in the little kitchen area, the living room area, and she was the complete life of the party. And she was just joking and talking about how she was in love,
Mm-hmm.
and that it was the beginning of the rest of her life, and that she was so excited for it and what she was going to do next. And it just I know that the Lord just called her home,
Mm-hmm.
because whatever it was, she was just done here, but it doesn't make it any easier. And I think I just was heartbroken for him because it was such a big loss, and I only had her for a few hours.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't
We were
imagine what that
we were so
was.
strikingly different. My sister,
Oh my God,
she's
fun.
loud and she's in your face,
She
and
is.
me, and
That
it's
was
always,
all.
and myself, I'm just more reserved, and
Mhm.
I've always believed that God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. But my sister, there was no filter, and it was just
No
from
filter.
here straight through, and I knew you guys would get along
Oh my
because of
God,
that.
That's what was so fun about her.
I've
Oh
learned
my
if you say
God.
something and it's difficult to take things back, you can feel guilty as heck for things that are in your head. But once you let them out, then it's out of the bag.
Oh, it was so fun.
But I did get
Just
to
so fun.
I did get to a point within my relationship with my sister of respecting each other for our differences and loving and on her and respecting that she wasn't going to change as an individual, and that's just who she was. And
Yeah.
she came to that same understanding with me as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, but she had no problem lighting up the room and being the joy. And the thing that was so sweet is the respect and honor and how she talked about him. I mean, we're just sitting on the couches and she's talking about him. And she's talking to me like I'm his boss or something, and she wants to share about him. And it was just so kind and authentic and respectful and looking up to her big brother. It was a lovely. I was so glad that I had those moments, you know.
Ditto. Yeah, family, and this is one thing that I really respect about you. We were talking about it even before we hopped on film of just, do you guys know each other? Because,
Yeah.
you seem, but one thing that I've always respected about you, John, is when I go and look at Facebook and all that, it's a way of being able to get to know people, and everyone's different in terms of whether or not they're willing to open up on social media and allow for people to kind of creep into your life a little bit or not. But you do to a certain degree, and one thing that I absolutely love more than anything is just what you write on the lunch bags to your sons. I absolutely love them. In fact, I had to screenshot one of them just to throw you off a little bit.
Oh, here we go.
And dear Jack, I'm glad you had fun at the dance Friday. I was very pleased to hear that the crowd went wild when Vanilla Ice Ice Baby came on, because anything less than the best is a felony. Hashtag word to your mother. Love, Dad. And I thought about that. I'm like, I grew up during that whole era. Like, it was MC Hammer with
Right?
the splash pant, the big
Yep.
pants,
Yep.
and Vanilla Ice, And I don't know, but I probably would have done a further hashtag in there, though. Huh?
Cooking MCs like a pound of bacon.
If there was a problem, I'd solve it. Check out the hook while my DJ revolved it, something like that. But
Hands down the greatest song of all time.
it's up there.
It's up there.
You
Top
know,
10.
and I think the story behind that one is he actually ended up stealing it from somebody else, and they hung him off of a balcony, like stories up off the balcony. I don't know if it was Suge or...
Suge Knight wanted the
Right?
rights to the song.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
I mean, that would probably go. If that happened to me, I'd be like, okay, game over. I'm not doing this anymore. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Well, that's awesome, man.
yeah.
And
If that happens in real estate, I gotta tell you right now, I'm done.
Yeah.
It's game over.
Good thing we don't have any really big buildings in Marietta or
Yeah.
Toledo, so I think you're okay. 20 feet drop, you can see that.
Well, like when you had Christine up there on the weekend and she was like hanging off of the ledge with her feet dangling, that was crazy.
It was scary.
That is scary.
I'm like, you are out of control, and I'm sitting here helping you be that.
Yeah, no, there was like
Okay.
that behind the scenes, like the signature office was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's out
Yeah.
of crazy love for the signature family right there.
Was it BRE compliant, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I admire about you on Facebook, sir, is your love for pantries
Oh, yes.
and jumping out of them and
Yes.
scaring the hell out of your family.
Yeah.
That's right up my alley. I love it.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
I don't have a pantry, else I would.
And I've got it down now, too. I mean, I think that last one was like 4 minutes, and that was from the point that she was out in front of the house with the dogs pooping. But the thing is, though, is now, like, I'm so in tune with my wife
Yeah.
that I pretty much know, like, all of her movements going around the house and just who she is as a person and where she's going to go next and what she's going to do.
Yeah.
That I can usually get it to within 30, 45 seconds of, like, from the point of starting the film to the point where I get the money shot of her just freaking out.
Yeah.
It only takes like 30, 45 seconds.
The look of
This
like
is true
fear,
love.
the shock, and then the disgust and anger
Oh,
towards
yeah.
you, like within milliseconds.
She knows I got her, But she does the same thing, though.
Yeah, does she
the
scare
same
you?
thing. The best time that she got me was when she was pretty much almost 9 months pregnant. And I'd just taken a shower, and I went to the bedroom and locked the door. And you know how you're like that, you're all by yourself?
Yeah.
And I'm stark naked. And she knew exactly which shirt I was going to go for in the closet, and she jumped out at me. Nobody's thinking your 9-month pregnant wife is going to jump out of the closet at you while you're naked in a bedroom.
Yeah.
And she got the high-pitched scream out of me.
Yeah.
And
did she get her on film?
huh?
Did she get the scream on film?
No, I think that was before iPhones and all
Okay.
that. Yeah, like that old
thank
school.
God.
Right. Some things, but
Yeah.
she'll never forget it though.
Yeah.
It's
She brings it up still, huh?
And in his bio, I can scream like a girl.
That's funny.
yeah,
Oh my. Okay, so where are you from?
yeah. Rhode Island originally.
How long have you been in California?
Yeah, we moved out here in 1990, so I was 11, and I actually just went back there. My uncle passed away at the end of last year. My uncle Vinny, he's like, if you could picture having like a Godfather type of uncle, he was just it. I mean, he had the Italian restaurant, and it was just
Uncle
yeah,
Vinny.
Uncle Vinny,
Yeah.
Uncle Vinny. But anyhow, to go back east, you know, it's just a different mentality. You know, there's usually, like my sister, there's just no filter, and that's kind of how my mom was. And it's just the people, they think it and they say it, and that's just kind of how it is. But I don't know. I from going back to the city that I grew up in, which was an Irish Puerto Rican neighborhood, to where I am today, it's just strikingly different.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched grandchildren getting chased down the street by grandma with a rolling pin, so because they got ticked off, and they grow all their own vegetables, and you know that's just different.
Yeah.
But
You never hear about people from Rhode Island, ever.
no, well,
I
it's the smallest
never
state in
do.
the United States, you know, and I don't know,
Okay, so how many kids do you have?
yeah, 2 girls,
What's their names?
yeah, Haley and Brooklyn,
How old are they?
11 and 12.
Do you love being a girl mom?
Girl dad,
A girl
yeah.
dad, not a girl mom.
I know there's gender neutrality in this world now, but
yeah, you could
I'm
be.
dad.
If you wake up in the morning, you know,
No.
change your mind.
I got to be honest with you. Having 2 daughters is a lot funner than I thought it was going to be. I thought initially when I had the first one, I was like, okay, I just went from predator to prey, right? Like from dating all the girls and doing all, and now all of a sudden, like the roles just got flipped in reverse, and I'm in trouble, right?
Yeah.
And then the second round, when I found out that we were going to have another girl, I was like, oh my God. I don't know if I want to try for a third human being to try to get a son, right?
Yeah.
And you're lucky. I mean, at that point in time, I'm feeling happy that I had 20 fingers and 20 toes, and everyone's just healthy with 2 heartbeats, and just, they're both beautiful. But I couldn't go another round of having to try it for a son. I probably would have had twin girls and then end up with 4.
Yeah.
That's actually what happened. My dad was one of 6, and it was 4 girls, and then my dad came, and then my Uncle Bobby, so there were 6. But yeah, no, I was good, and I had the chance to pass on the family name, and I'm like, it's not. I'm good.
Not going through this tree branch, huh?
No,
Yeah.
no. I mean, it's a lot. You know, it's a lot different than it used to be. The world in which it is
Yeah.
right now.
And now you have to teach them.
Yeah, my grandfather was a butcher on a butcher's wage, a sole income, and had a beautiful house that my grandfather had built, and the whole family was provided for with just that one sole income as a butcher. And now it's like, if you're not making $150,000 a year, you need to get subsidized by the government
Yeah.
and the state for being able to afford your health insurance premium.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. But you get, so I got to experience the dad part, right?
Yeah.
You know how us as parents, we get all of the teaching and training, and you wonder if your children are going to be delightful or not, because you're doing all the teaching and training and you see all the testing. His girls took me upstairs to their bedrooms and literally pointed out every single thing about every single thing that they loved about their room and how thankful they were that
Oh,
they
wow.
had them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's a good dad.
My
That's
girls-
a good mom. They are good kids.
We've always, since the outset, we've been very open and honest with our children just about what's out there in the world
Yeah.
and being thankful for what we have. And I mean, even last night, it was cold out. It's cold out right now and windy. And my children know, like, there's people that are sleeping underneath tents and underneath cardboard. And we have a beautiful home and everyone is safe and we have a roof over our heads.
Yeah.
And so, my kids are very grounded in knowing their place in the world and who they are as individuals. And I think that's one of the most important things for me as a father, and my legacy is just raising 2 young confident women that can actually get through what the world is going to throw at them. And but they have tons of personality too. They'll hide
They
in a
are.
closet and they'll jump out at you too.
I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. I'm like, this is what family's supposed to look like. This is like when you abuse each other, this is what it's supposed to look like. Great senses of humor.
Yeah.
And great hearts. And
And
completely different.
And one of the, I know, we talked about it a little bit, and I know that we're all believers, and that's in this office, that what drew me to this office was really that core, that foundation. Starting off a monthly meeting by saying prayer, that's just some form of commonality that we all have with each other, that we can go back to that place where even if there is differences, we can go back to that place and try to find some common ground with each other.
Yeah.
But I mean, you mentioned my daughter's rooms. I don't know if you saw the John 3:16 that my wife had written on the board at the top, but that's one of my final favorite photos that I actually have of my sister that's with my youngest daughter with John 3:16 in the back.
Aww.
And John 3:16 has carried me through a lot during this whole just trial and tribulation within my life.
Yeah.
So for God so loved the world, he gave his only son, that ever believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you know,
And she's already there. She's on the side of eternity.
Yeah.
She's in forever.
yeah,
You know, but we'll see her again.
yeah.
And she'll sing.
And that's a place, I mean, even my dad on difficult days, we sold the house that we had, and we ended
That's
up,
what I was gonna say.
that's another thing when you talk
Yes.
about a crazy year that we had. So I was getting quotes after my dad was living with my sister, and they were quoting us out at $100,000 contractors to put a bedroom and a bathroom downstairs. All of our bedrooms were up, and we didn't have anything down, and I wanted to take my dad in. And I'm like, in this neighborhood, I love the neighborhood. We owned the house right next door to my wife's parents, literally. We had a pass-through gate where my daughters could just go next door to
awesome.
grandma and grandpa.
Right.
But $100,000, I would never recapture that money and the improvement for that house because it would just never comp out. So, I had the heart to heart with my wife, and I'm like, if we do this, if we take $100,000 from our own savings and put it in this house, we just have to go into it with the understanding and knowing that we're only doing it for our own family's purposes, and we probably won't get the lion's share of that ever back again. But we looked around in the market, and we ended up finding a place up the street that was dramatically bigger and makes more sense for the family.
Well, and that's the heart he has too. He has sat in his office with a desk, and because he has such a great financial background, he will sit with someone who's just beginning and tell them how to start, how to do their business, how to save money. I think you even sat with my son at one point.
I did.
And of course, I didn't see the fruit to that, but
No.
the
Yeah.
heart to.
I'm like,
because
Nash,
it
don't
comes
buy
from
the nice, expensive stuff. I'm like,
No,
there'll be a tough day too.
Yeah, exactly. But where did you come from? How'd you get into real estate?
Yeah, my dad was in the banking industry, and that's what initially got us out to Southern California, was being in the banking world, and he was on the loan side. And so all that jargon, I just grew up with it. I grew up with listening to all of the real estate lending jargon. And I got my broker's license in 2004, and at that point in time, you can open up a real estate office or you can
Yep.
open up a mortgage company. And so that was a cool story in and of itself. I studied for my broker's license while I was living in Spain, and took all my correspondence stuff through Spain while I was living there for a year, and then came back and took the test and passed it the first time up in Sacramento.
You just say that like it's normal.
Well,
Well, I was in Spain.
Yeah, well, that was
What
fun.
were you doing in Spain?
Yeah. At the point in time, my girlfriend at the time, we were together for probably 4.5 years. She was doing semester abroad, and I went out there, and you got to live out there for free. So,
Was that fun?
yeah, it was
we-
pretty good.
Do we like Spain?
I love Spain. I'm looking
Nice.
forward to getting back.
Nice.
Yeah, and going and visiting.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I'm happy about the starting so early as we did with having children, because I'm already halfway back to going to Europe again,
Yeah.
or going
Yeah.
somewhere again, you know?
Yeah.
And but yeah, no, I loved it. We're coming up on Thanksgiving, right? I was out there for Thanksgiving, and there were probably about, I don't know, within the group that we're hanging around with, probably 20 Americans. And I had it set. I'm like, I love cooking. And I'm like, I am going to make an awesome Thanksgiving meal for these people. And there were others. I mean, I lived with Ini and Heiko. They were German, a German couple at the time. She spoke like 9 languages. It was crazy. And I'm like, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to make an amazing Thanksgiving meal. So they have one of the market was probably a couple miles away. I had to take 2 different buses to get there. And I'm just in my flip-flops and in my shorts and everything. And the market is set into levels. Like, first level is just all vegetables. And it's just, if you Google the markets out there, it's amazing. So the whole first level will be all vegetables. Second level is like all seafood. Third level is just all meats. And you've just got, it's crazy. But I got my turkey, I got a pavo, and it had feathers on it still, and I threw it in my backpack, and I went back through town on the buses and brought the bird in my backpack back to the house.
Oh my god!
And we cooked up.
Blood dripping all over the bus seat.
But we had an amazing Thanksgiving meal that year. And other people Europeans that had never experienced traditional, Thanksgiving meal actually got to experience a little bit of Americana too, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got your broker's license way before I did.
Okay.
You've
2004, yeah.
You've always been way smarter than me.
No.
And I was always
You're smarter than you allude to. You just don't want to let people know how much.
No, you don't
Yeah.
have to do as much if you.
Yeah.
That's what people don't know about Susan. They always think that she's like this kind of bubbly cheerleader type, but it's
No.
like, have you seen the Susan face when she's like in litigation mode? Oh
Yeah.
man, she'd be an amazing
Yeah.
attorney.
No.
Oh yeah.
No, because I don't want
You're
to
sharp.
lie.
You are sharp.
Her understanding of the contracts and her understanding on just looking out for clients' best interests and the fiduciary responsibility you have to your clients. I mean, she's willing to go to bat.
Yeah.
And she's one of the best that's out there, and it's one of the reasons why I decided to come to Signature, because I knew that she had that.
I feel like we have that in common.
We do.
I've always trusted you with that,
Mhm.
with that piece, and it's nice to have people on board that you're like, oh, I so don't have to worry about this
Mhm.
in any way, shape, or form. And I was just like, he's a broker, and I was like, a broker's coming.
Yeah.
This is amazing. But then I found out what a nice man he was, and what a family man he was. And then when he had an office in the office, I would go and sit and interrupt him.
She would.
And
It was almost inevitable if she came and knocked on your door. She told me, I put 2 seats in front of my desk, and one thing she said from the outset was, don't put seats in front of your desk because people are going to sit down. You're giving them a reason to sit down. She was the biggest culprit of sitting down at your desk for an hour afterwards.
I was. Oh yeah, it's just.
Unfortunately, my wife has 100% trust in me. Otherwise, she'd be like, okay, where were you for the last 2
right.
hours?
Of course, I love his wife. She's beautiful. She's a beautiful human being. They were going through that challenge, and for a minute, their family was separated, and all I could feel was the heart of a wife who loved her husband, who just lost his sister. And so I tried real hard to reach out to her and just kind of be there, because, sometimes that gets forgotten.
Well, I gotta tell you, I've experienced this office and just Signature Real Estate Group on a different level than I wish upon nobody. But by the same token, though, I got to experience, and that is that there was people that were calling me. Gift cards came in the mail and were sent out so that my wife didn't have to make dinner or meals for the night. You sent this huge bouquet of flowers, and you were mad at him because it was supposed to be bigger, in true Susan fashion. You're like, no, that was supposed to be the one that was the biggest.
I was so mad.
But the amount of just love and support and people that came through, it was the spirit of what this office is, and
I think it's
I'm
just
forever grateful on that.
Just a simple reflection of who you are.
Yeah,
It's just coming back to you.
yeah,
Everything that you've given and done.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
In Spain,
I don't know.
making Thanksgiving dinner.
I got a little bit longer than that.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
a little bit longer than that, but I don't know. I'm really happy with where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Um,
I think people could learn from you. the balance that you have, and I know that's just all elusive, is there really balance? But it's so obvious your priority is your family and your wife and your children.
It is. It's about balance.
How do you live that out loud?
It's balance. I enjoy having balance of time at the end of the day. Certainly I could go out there and be making 2, 3x, 4x more. But at the same time, though, I respect the fact now that my daughters are in junior high and that I'm only going to get one shot at being dad with them being in the household. And they'll be out before I know it. But how much is enough? How much more do you really need before you're just, enough is enough?
Yeah.
I've never really needed the cars. I've never needed the bling bling lifestyle, and to make a great living for myself and my family. But by the same token, though, it is about balance. And I think that time and being able to spend time with my family is probably my number one priority.
There's people who give that lip service, but you live it.
Yeah.
So good for you.
Yeah. No, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you do. You're jumping out of pantries.
No, everyone's. Yeah, I know. People in the office, like when I did have an office here, were like, "We haven't seen you for like 3 weeks. We didn't think that you were alive." I'm like, "You might not see me today for another 2 months." Like, I don't know. But the thing is, though, and I don't know. It's just I know when to put the brakes on it, and like, okay, like life has been pretty good. I'm just ready for a little reset. And by the same token, like if I need to put it on and put on the accelerator and get out there and make it happen, especially if you know that you're in the groove and that you've got a good round of business that's going, then you go at it. I'm okay with being up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and working and go until 11 o'clock at night, midnight if necessary, and working on files and getting things done. But that's probably one of the greatest things about doing what we do is having that flexibility of being able to work when you want if necessary. So
where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I don't know. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh,
I mean, half the office might not want this
I
answer.
see myself having a facelift so that my face goes back to the place that it used to be.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay.
I see the escrow company growing and thriving and being able to help people in that service.
And I love G on that side. They're amazing over there.
Yeah, they really are. I don't know how any of this happened. I can only say that I love the Lord for it, because it doesn't make any sense to me, and it's all just so good. But 5 years, I'd like to have done 4.
You don't think you're deserving of it?
I do.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I am an arrogant, pompous. No, not.
But I've watched you do this from the ground up, though, with starting over in here.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. I mean, I can remember even last year, I'm like, there's still like 30% of the offices that are still vacancies, and you're like, they'll be filled. Don't worry about it. They'll be filled, and they're filled now. Like,
yeah. I like the organic building of something instead of the recruiting, selling. I want us to be a team that has the same heart.
Sure.
I'd like to, in 5 years, see myself gone on 4 tropical vacations.
Okay.
That's what
And maybe I'll have a signature office in another state somewhere. Who knows?
If you do that, I'm in.
Yeah. I don't know. It'd probably be like Hawaii, though.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I would have to go and do audits there on a regular basis.
Right.
Business
I would have to.
It'd be a tax write-off, though. It'd be an expense.
Do you think you ever would move to a tropical place like that?
Oh, for sure.
I'm the same way. I feel like I know I'm going to end up on some island where there's sand and it's warm all the time.
And that's what's crazy because I don't know. I mean, my year, I literally the first week of the year, I was in Waikiki sitting on the beach. And life was just good. My toes are in the sand, and I'm looking out at the sunset on the last night. And I can remember my family went up to the hotel room, and I'm like, I'm just going to hang out for a little bit and watch, them come in, the surfers come in, everything. And to ever expect that from the beginning of the year, the first week in January, being in Waikiki, to April 13th, finding out that my sister's going to pass away, I would have said you're full of it, and I would have put all my money in my bank accounts that it wasn't going to happen. But, this is all within God's plan, and so you just you have to have faith in that.
Can we talk about something that happened with your sister?
Sure.
You see these things happen on TV, and that's the only place you see them, and you wonder if they're real. Can you tell the story of what your sister did and what that last gesture in life was, and what the hospital and what happened there?
So my sister was actually the first person to have an honor walk at the hospital, and I've never witnessed it before or seen anything like it. But basically, through the donation network for organ donation, they ended up going into the hospital and ended up setting it up with the nurses and the doctors and all the practitioners and staff, where basically from the point that it was in her ICU room, going all the way down to the room where they actually do what they call the harvesting or the cropping of organs. The walls on both sides were shoulder to shoulder with medical staff all the way down from point A to point B, just showing their respect for gifting and for And now in hindsight, from being able to find out how that ended up playing out, I know that my sister saved 8 lives, and one of them directly that I met face to face with. It was that was a crazy story in and of itself. My sister was in the hospital, and it's probably the best thing that ended up coming out of the whole situation as a whole, because what ended up happening was it came to my attention through another friend that she had had conversation with them. She knew that that person needed to be donated to, and I found out, and so I literally got the form. I waited an hour and a half in a waiting room for the person to come out through Donor West Network to give me a 1-page form, and I ended up, the woman that was the recipient for my sister, she didn't drive, and so I had to drive over to her house across town in Chico, sat down in her living room, filled out. She'd been on the list for a long time.
What was this for?
And so she was on the list for a long time. And then ultimately, it was a direct beneficiary request form, and she filled it out and I filled it out. And then if she was a match, then she would have received my sister's liver. And so it was her liver. And so, you know, I felt like I was on this journey with my sister that day of just, if it's within God's will and this is what's meant to be, then this is what's going to happen. And I went, dropped off the form. The next day we ended up getting a phone call, and they said that Jennifer was going to receive my sister's liver. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Crash or not. Crash is a crazy movie from back in the day, but I'm really, truly firm believer that all of our lives are intertwined more than we even really, truly can fathom. And what ended up happening was Jennifer ended up calling me, and my dad's brother, my uncle, were in the car. And it was just, hey, just want to let you guys know that I'm driving down to UCSF, and they're going to prep me up, and I'm going in for surgery tomorrow. Meanwhile, we're driving over to the hospital and saying our last goodbyes before my sister goes in. So both sides, I'm listening to somebody that's going into UCSF and is going to receive her liver. On the flip side of the coin, I'm going into the hospital and I'm saying goodbye, and I'm walking my sister in on the walk. And probably it'll probably be one of the craziest days of my life.
Okay, excuse me.
You know?
No camera on me right now.
No, crazy. But and I've always George Carlin, I don't know if you've seen his stand-up comedy bit where he talks about donation and organ donation. He's like, not me. He's like, you keep me alive because I know they're looking for parts, right? Like they're like, you keep me alive. And so I don't know, there's this weird negative just thought. I don't think nobody really wants to talk about death but organ donation is probably through my sister, I've learned that it's probably one of the most selfless last acts that we can do in this world. And I said, if there's anything that's going to positively come out of this, it's that I'm going to have to start becoming an advocate for the Donor West Network and for being able to help save lives, because it's crazy. And I talked to Jennifer that received my sister's liver probably about a month ago. And, just conference call, my dad and my sister, my dad and my wife are in the room and just talking about her. And she's just, she couldn't initially, before pre-surgery, she couldn't even walk down the block without getting winded and not feeling good. Now she's walking miles, and she's she got a second chance at life.
Yeah. Well, the Lord works in mysterious ways, because I was a donor, 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 and then I got into that bad philosophy of, oh gosh, I went through a little scare with my health, and I was like, nothing in me is good, so I stopped doing that, and then that made me, your life and your testimony and your journey with your sister made me be an organ donor again.
Yeah.
Because that made sense,
John, are you in? Are you?
I am.
You are?
Yeah.
I am.
All right.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
I am.
And it's funny that it's the most selfless, wonderful thing. I always thought, how do you do that? Because now your family has to say bye to you twice, because it's like, okay, you die and then you have to stay alive and then you have to die again. And I didn't know if I could handle it. My mom passed away and she was very ill, and she looked at us and she said, I want my body donated to science. And we were all, but we want your body. And she's like, no. And when they took her, we knew that she was going to go to a college, and
Yep.
she was going to be one of those cadavers.
Yep.
And so it's like that happened first, and then that happened with your sister, and it was.
It's
really
just, two separate individuals
Yeah.
got her kidneys, and then Jennifer with her liver, and then if you think about it, there were skin grafts that were donated to where you think about burn victims and people that had cancer that are going back, and just so to just be able to positively impact other people through that, it's just it's amazing.
It was one of the most beautiful things I saw, the hallway.
Yeah.
And tragic and sorrow and just so bittersweet.
Yeah.
So thanks for letting me be a part of that journey.
Yeah.
Sorry you went through it, and I'm glad we're getting to the other end.
We
It's
are
not going to stop, but
no.
How are you doing these days?
You know what? It's the hardest thing that I've dealt with in my life, and just being open and transparent. I've always been a really grounded individual, and I've always been able to handle just adversity, but this is probably one of the top few things on a very short list that would just kind of rock me to the core. And it did, in all honesty.
Yeah.
And so one of the things within our office that we would talk about when we would do our meetings is just, how do we mindset? Mm-hmm. Mindset is probably the biggest challenge and the biggest thing that I've been dealing with through 2019, of just when you have difficult days, but you know that you still need to provide for the family, of how do you get yourself to a place in your mindset on being able to go and make those 150 or 200 calls that you need to make, or going and doing the open house on the weekend when you really just don't want to get out of bed. And so that's the biggest thing that I feel like I've dealt with this year, but I'm optimistic as well, because I know that I'm tough. I know that. And I know that 2020 is going to be an amazing year coming forward. And this year has been great in and of itself under the circumstances. But I've got an amazing family, and I've got a really good support structure. So I'm blessed with good people in my family and good friends. And so I'm really blessed.
So can I ask, how did you do it? How do you do it?
Mm-hmm.
For someone else who's out there who is battling that head game,
mm-hmm.
How do you do it?
Yeah.
How do you battle that head trip and win?
Yeah. I would say try to do positive things that are going to get you away from the negative place. So I started doing walks, a couple mile walks with my dad in the morning time, just going and being able to just father son, just be able to go and walk a couple miles and get some fresh air at 7 o'clock in the morning, and being able to just, I think it's just going back to the basics.
Yeah.
I'm going back to the basics again. And when you go from having business to all of a sudden everything comes to a grinding halt, you really have to go back to just where did I find success in the past, and where do I go back to those types of activities that got me to where I was. And so that's where I'm at right now, is just going back to the basics. I know that open houses are successful for me, and I know that making phone calls are successful for me, and so I'm just going back to doing those types of things that got me to where I was at.
Yeah. So what do you like working, listings or buyers?
Both sides.
Yeah?
Yeah, equally. My last transaction was first-time home buyers, young. He was 21 years old, and I met him in an open house, and he had enough faith to just go on that journey with me. And, and now a client that I have, it's so cool. He's got 20 acres of avocados up in Duluth, and the house across the way just went on the market, and he's like, I can own the house across the way from my business, and I don't have a home up here right now. And the house has another 11 acres that he'll be able to do avocados on. And, you know, that gentleman owns multiple properties. So, I don't know. And I don't know. One of the biggest ones of the year right now that I'm working on right now is the potential to be able to sell the highest priced home that's listed in the MLS right now in Temecula. That's listed at $5 million. And I have an all cash buyer that I've been going back and forth with now for 2.5 months.
Oh my gosh.
2.5 months. But I think that it's going to happen. I think it's
a pretty
happen.
awesome deal, man, for this.
We'll
area.
see what
That's
happens.
Fantastic.
We'll see what happens. But, you know, and that's played with my mind a little bit over the last couple months with going back and forth and just kind of going through that. It's not every day that you have a buyer that's in a position to being able to purchase a house like that to begin with. And so you have to have some more patience with that whole piece, because I understand that they have busy schedules. But at the end of the day, though, it's just if it's within God's will and it's going to happen, then it will. And if not, then that's fine as well. And I have peace in that. But I could see how some agents, it would just drive them crazy.
Yeah.
Knowing whether or not they were just going to have one deal that was like that for the year, you know?
Well, the overwhelming theme that I am getting from this conversation, just spending time in your presence here, is that your foundation is solid with Christ.
For sure.
Like you've been in God's presence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when Moses came down from the mountain and his face was shining, like that's what I see in you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, this year has been hard for you, but you've been close to God. You could tell.
You have to go. You have to have faith in that personally. And I know that everyone has different thoughts in terms of just what that means and what that is. But, you know, even my wife's dad, I mean, he was stage 4. He's a stage 4 cancer survivor, and they took out like 99.9% of his stomach. And then that was last year that we were dealing with all of that. I mean, he was taking trial drugs, and thank God he had the markers for it and was taken on test through Keytruda, and he wouldn't be here right now probably otherwise. But at the end of the day, though, it's just we have a really good, strong foundation with our family. And my wife could care less whether or not we live in a shack or we live in a 4,000 plus square foot home. It's just at the end of the day, she's like, we have each other and we have our health, and that's the most important thing.
It's what love looks like. It's what love looks like for real.
You know?
That's how I define it. There.
As you're popping out of the pantry.
But I will.
Oh, for sure.
I would live in a box with you.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love my husband or wife, and I would live in a box with you.
Yeah, I mean,
that's all that matters.
she's just a simple person, and she grew up with that foundation. You know, she grew up with that foundation, so it makes for us, we can always go back to that common place, and we don't. After 13 years of marriage, there's very, very seldom that we ever end up getting into it with each other, and we don't see eye to eye on things. But if we do, then we can go back to that place, you know. And she might tell me that I was a schmuck, but whatever, like, you know.
How did you meet? How did you meet?
Yeah. So that was through AOL chat.
It was?
Yeah.
AOL is
Okay,
that
no,
right?
we're going old school right now, all right? So my sister-in-law, my wife's sister, was going to go on a date with my would-have-been brother-in-law. My dad was going to marry his mom, but they were going to go on a date, and so my wife and I tagged along to make sure nobody got murdered.
What?
And we went to BJ's Pizza down in Laguna Beach.
Why would someone get murdered?
Yeah. Huh?
Because it was scary?
Well, it was off the internet back then. Like, you didn't know what the heck was going to happen, you know?
Oh, my gosh.
So, but...
Was it love at first sight?
It was pretty good. It was pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah. My wife has the story because I played Chris DeBur's Lady in Red in the car on the way home, and she was in the back seat with my sister-in-law at the time, and she's like, she had red on. She's like,
oh.
yeah, right.
Oh. How'd you ask her to marry you?
Huh?
How did you ask her?
I asked her at the end of the San Clemente Pier, and it was a blown-out rainy day like we have right now. And she thought that it was going to be coming, but she didn't know when. And so she always had her nails done, and everything was really cute and everything.
That's awesome.
This day, she's like, no, my nails were chipped. I didn't have any paint on them. And I had my mom and her parents waiting at the end of the San Clemente Pier. It was such a blown-out, foggy day. You couldn't even see a couple hundred feet in front of you. And we were waiting at the end of the pier. She thought I was up in Northern California in Chico, and my dad drove her down there and said, I don't know what Scott is wanting to do, but he's like, he asked me to meet you at the pier and he wanted me to give you something. And so he walked her down the end of the pier, and I had my mom and her parents waiting at the end of the pier. And I proposed to her in front of all of our parents.
Oh,
So,
did you
yeah.
ask permission?
Of course.
You did? Did you get on
Absolutely.
one knee?
Yeah, of course.
Did she pick out the ring or did you?
I did. Yeah.
Oh, true man.
And I prayed that I didn't drop the ring into
Oh,
the,
right.
yeah, like
Can you
down in the
imagine?
pier, right?
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I bought my wife's ring off of poker though, so
Oh,
you know, I got a bad beat jackpot down in Ocean's 11 in Oceanside. Pocket jacks, baby.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
yeah. It was a
gosh.
$28,000 jackpot, and I got 40% of it.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was a $27,000 jackpot. I got 40%, so it was like $10,800. I tipped the dealer $500 and went and bought my wife a ring that night.
The Lord provides.
Right?
That's awesome.
She could never say that poker didn't win anything. So, in hindsight, it was probably the best decision I ever made.
That's great.
That's awesome.
That's cool. Well, final thoughts?
I don't know. I just feel really blessed to have met you and to be here. And I do feel like everything plays out for a reason. And I'm home. I know I'm home. I'm not going anywhere. Brokerages will reach out and say, I'm not going anywhere though. I'm really happy where I'm at. And I love everyone in the office. So there's a lot of good people here. I know it's a reoccurring theme in the office and just collaboration and everyone getting along. And it's just one of those things that's hard to find that's out there. But you really built the spirit and just the foundation in the office from the ground up off of that. And there's a lot of good people in here. I build a lot of good, strong relationships with friends.
Yeah.
Joe Hawes comes over to my house, and the Marchenas are in my backyard, and I got,
Yeah.
I got footage of him with an aerial towel in the backyard that I can use later on in life if I need to, But there's good people in here, and so I can remember actually when I initially was going to come over here, and one agent said, "Oh, you're going to go over with the wolves, like you're going to go over with the sharks," and I thought about it, and I'm like, no, there's a lot of really heavy top producers there, and the cream goes to the top, and I want to be with the best of the best, and I want to be in a place where people want you to make you better and bring you up. I don't want to be around a bunch of people that are only doing a couple deals a year. I want to be around people that are doing 20, 25 minimum and going up from there.
Yeah.
And that's what you have around here, so it's a good place to be.
Well, my final thought would be I'll never have a final thought when it comes to you and what you have given to me. And the word that I think of is honor. You've taught me how to honor God. You always do. You honor your family. You honor your children. You honor the business. And you honor me. And so I have not enough words of gratitude of how my heart honors you. So thank you so much for being a part of this and building this with me.
Oh,
And
I love you, Suzanne.
making a legacy with me. Thank you. Thank you very
You don't
much.
get a hug, John. You're cute, but not that cute.
Well, I feel so blessed and honored to just sit on the side of the table for the past hour. We've seen each other on Facebook, and we'll sneak around each other's listings and stuff like that. But I don't think we've done a deal quite yet. But
We will.
I'm looking forward to that. But like I said, I could tell that solid foundation is in Christ, and you have a peace about you. You've had a hell of a year, but you've also been in the presence of heaven, and you can sense that.
Yep.
And so anytime you can be close to somebody like that, like we are today, that's a beautiful thing, man.
Mhm.
And that's what I love about this show. This is the spotlight, and we get to see agents that we see their yard signs, we see them on the MLS, we see them on Facebook, but we really get to know them and underneath these lights. And thank you for being on the show today, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm very, very happy.
Thanks, John.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Signature Spotlight Series with Scott Gormley, Susan Ebert, John Butler, ball guy in the red tie, saying see you in escrow. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.